Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. We will be in 1 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 1, through chapter 2, verse 21. There was a man from Ramathaim Zophim, from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah. He was the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. The name of the first was Hannah. The name of the second was Peninnah. Now Peninnah had children, but Hannah was childless. Year after year this man would go up from his city to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh. It was there that the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, served as the Lord's priests. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he used to give meat portions to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters, but he would give a double portion to Hannah, because he especially loved her. Now the Lord had not enabled her to have children. Her rival wife used to upset her and make her worry, for the Lord had not enabled her to have children. Peninnah would behave this way year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the Lord's house, Peninnah would upset her so that she would weep and refuse to eat. Finally, her husband Elkanah said to her, "Hannah, why do you weep and not eat? Why are you so sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" On one occasion in Shiloh, after they had finished eating and drinking, Hannah got up. Now at the time, Eli the priest was sitting in his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. She was very upset as she prayed to the Lord, and she was weeping uncontrollably. She made a vow, saying, "O Lord of hosts, if you will look with compassion on the suffering of your female servant, remembering me and not forgetting your servant, and give a male child to your servant, then I will dedicate him to the Lord all the days of his life. His hair will never be cut." As she continued praying to the Lord, Eli was watching her mouth. Now Hannah was speaking from her heart. Although her lips were moving, her voice was inaudible. Eli therefore thought she was drunk. So he said to her, "How often do you intend to get drunk? Put away your wine." But Hannah replied, "That's not the way it is, my lord. I am under a great deal of stress. I have drunk neither wine nor beer. Rather, I have poured out my soul to the Lord. Don't consider your servant a wicked woman, for until now I have spoken from my deep pain and anguish." Eli replied, "Go in peace." Dog. "And may the God of Israel grant the request that you have asked of him." She said, "May I, your servant, find favor in your sight." So the woman went her way and got something to eat. Her face no longer looked sad. They got up early the next morning, and after worshiping the Lord, they returned to their home at Ramah. Elkanah had marital relations with his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. After some time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, thinking, "I asked the Lord for him." The man Elkanah went up with all his family to make the yearly sacrifices to the Lord and to keep his vow, but Hannah did not go up with them. Instead, she told her husband, "Once the boy is weaned, I will bring him and appear before the Lord, and he will remain there from then on." So her husband Elkanah said to her, "Do what you think best. Stay until you have weaned him. May the Lord fulfill his promise." So the woman stayed and nursed her son until she had weaned him. When she had weaned him, she took him up with her along with 3 bulls, an ephah of flour, and a container of wine. She brought him to the Lord's house at Shiloh, even though he was young. Once the bull had been slaughtered, they brought the boy to Eli. She said, "Just as surely as you are alive, my lord, I am the woman who previously stood here with you in order to pray to the Lord. I prayed for this boy, and the Lord has given me the request that I asked of him. Now I dedicate him to the Lord. From this time on, he is dedicated to the Lord." Then they worshipped the Lord there. Hannah prayed, "My heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted high because of the Lord. I loudly denounce my enemies, for I am happy that you delivered me. No one is holy like the Lord. There is no one other than you. There is no rock like our God. Don't keep speaking so arrogantly, letting proud talk come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God who knows. He evaluates what people do. The bows of warriors are shattered, but those who stumble find their strength reinforced. Those who are well fed hire themselves out to earn food, but the hungry no longer lack. Even the barren woman gives birth to 7, but the one with many children withers away. The Lord both kills and gives life. He brings down to the grave and raises up. The Lord impoverishes and makes wealthy. He humbles and he exalts. He lifts the weak from the dust. He raises the poor from the ash heap to seat them with princes and to bestow on them an honored position. The foundations of the earth belong to the Lord, and he has placed the world on them. He watches over his holy ones, but the wicked are made speechless in the dark, for it is not by one's own strength that one prevails. The Lord shatters his adversaries. He thunders against them from the heavens. The Lord executes judgment to the ends of the earth. He will strengthen his king and exalt the power of his anointed one. Then Elkanah went back home to Ramah, but the boy was serving the Lord under the supervision of Eli the priest. The sons of Eli were wicked men. They did not recognize the Lord's authority. Now the priests would always treat the people in the following way. Whenever anyone was making a sacrifice while the meat was boiling, the priest's attendant would come with a 3-pronged fork in his hand. He would jab it into the basin, kettle, cauldron, or pot, and everything that the fork brought up the priest would take for himself. This is what they used to do to all the Israelites when they came there to Shiloh. Even before they burned the fat, the priest's attendant would come and say to the person who was making the sacrifice, "Hand over some meat for the priest to roast. He won't take boiled meat from you, but only raw." If the individual said to him, "First let the fat be burned away, and then take for yourself whatever you wish," he would say, "No, hand it over right now. If you don't, I will take it forcibly." The sin of these young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they treated the Lord's offering with contempt. Now Samuel was ministering before the Lord. The boy was dressed in a linen ephod. His mother used to make him a small robe and bring it up to him at regular intervals when she would go up with her husband to make the annual sacrifice. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord raise up for you descendants from this woman to replace the one that she dedicated to the Lord." Then they would go to their home. So the Lord graciously attended to Hannah, and she was able to conceive and give birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. The boy Samuel grew up at the Lord's sanctuary. Now Eli was very old when he heard about everything that his sons used to do to all the people of Israel, and how they used to have sex with the women who were stationed at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He said to them, "Why do you behave in this way? For I hear about these evil things from all these people." Whoops. I think I went 2 verses too far. Oh well. So yeah, we have this story of this man, Elkanah, and his 2 wives. He loved the one more than the other, and so gave her special privileges, but she was childless. This was Hannah. Hannah prayed to the Lord and asked for a son, and the Lord gave her a son who she named Samuel, which she then dedicated to God in the temple tabernacle at Shiloh. One note I would like to make concerning the verse 19 in chapter 1. When the Lord remembered her, it's not as though God is some sort of amnesiac or that forgets what he's created, but rather it's whenever you hear God remembering someone or something in the Bible, it's always associated with God doing something, God having some sort of action on the world. And in this case, due to her fervent faith and prayers, he allowed her to have a son. Yeah. Something that I find really admirable from Hannah here is in verse 10, she was very upset as she prayed to the Lord, and she was weeping uncontrollably. I think it's very admirable that instead of just kind of wallowing in her grief, she's praying to the Lord and giving it to Him, and working through this. Realizing that the Lord cares about us, and I think that's really cool. Yeah, and on the contrast of this faithful woman, we have the sons of the priest here, Hophni and Phinehas, who were wicked men. Just to hammer home what they were doing regarding the sacrifice, it was made very, very clear in Levitical law, that is the law concerning the priests, that the fat belonged to the Lord. So they were getting these raw chunks of meat that had the fat on them, and thus were violating the Lord's command about how the sacrifices should be used, and when the priest gets them. So, carrying on, John chapter 5, verses 1 through 23. After this, there was a Jewish feast, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool called Bethzatha in Aramaic, which has 5 covered walkways. A great number of sick, blind, lame, and paralyzed people were lying in these walkways. Now a man was there who had been disabled for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, and when he realized that the man had been disabled a long time already, he said to him, "Do you want to become well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I am trying to get into the water, someone else goes down there before me." Jesus said to him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Immediately the man was healed, and he picked up his mat and started walking. Now that day was a Sabbath. So the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is a Sabbath, and you are not permitted to carry your mat." But he answered them, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Pick up your mat and walk'?" But the man who had been healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped out, since there was a crowd in that place. After this, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "Look, you have become well. Don't sin any more, lest anything worse happen to you." The man went away and informed the Jewish leaders that Jesus was the one who had made him well. Now, because Jesus was doing these things on the Sabbath, the Jewish leaders began persecuting him. So he told them, "My Father is working until now, and I too am working." For this reason, the Jewish leaders were trying even harder to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was also calling God his own Father, thus making himself equal with God. So Jesus answered them, "I tell you the solemn truth. The Son can do nothing on his own initiative, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. For the Father loves the Son, and shows him everything he does, and will show him greater deeds than these, so that you will be amazed. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so also the Son gives life to whomever he wishes. Furthermore, the Father does not judge anyone, but has assigned all judgment to the Son, so that all people will honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. The one who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him." And I found that a very, very strong claim of deity from Jesus. Oftentimes you'll hear from Muslim polemicists, where did Jesus say, "I am God, worship me"? Like he has to say it in those exact words. Here you have Jesus saying in John 5:17, "My Father is working until now, and I too am working." I don't remember exactly the the verb forms and how it looks in the Greek, but it's, I think, unique here in that it's an infinitive, that is, God has been working and has not completed his work yet. Jesus has been working and has not completed his work yet. And so in the very same way that God works, that is, from the beginning of time up into the present and out into infinity, so too Jesus is working, indicating that he believed that his lifespan was longer than what it was on the planet. So, yeah. Also, I guess better than that, though, is yeah. Furthermore, in John 5:22, the Father does not judge anyone, but has assigned all judgment to the Son, so that all people will honor the Son just as they honor the Father. In the same way that we honor God, we're supposed to honor Jesus. So, it's yeah, the same worship and admiration that we're supposed to give to the Father, we're also supposed to give to the Son. So, this is, where we get the doctrine of the Trinity at, but not just this particular portion. So, carrying on, Psalm 105, verses 37 through 45. He brought his people out, enriched with silver and gold. None of his tribes stumbled. Egypt was happy when they left, for they were afraid of them. He spread out a cloud for a cover and provided a fire to light up the night. They asked for food, and he sent quails. He satisfied them with food from the sky. He opened up a rock, and water flowed out. A river ran through dry regions. Yes, he remembered the sacred promise he made to Abraham his servant. When he led his people out, they rejoiced. His chosen ones shouted with joy. He handed the territory of nations over to them, and they took possession of what other peoples had produced, so that they might keep his commands and obey his laws. Praise the Lord. Interesting. This last one is I feel like, in contrast to the last section we read, where it's more God delivering his people from calamity, you have this section with God. You have this section as God delivering people from calamity and bringing them out with spoil. So you've got the Israelites plundering the Egyptians. That is, when Israel left Egypt, each of the Israelites asked for treasure, essentially, from their Egyptian neighbors, and they gave it to them. And then you have food from the sky with the quails and water from the rock. So, pretty cool. Psalm 14, verses 28 and 29. A king's glory is the abundance of people, but the lack of subjects is the ruin of a ruler. The one who is slow to anger has great understanding, but the one who has a quick temper exalts folly. Yeah, that's important, I think, because James hits on the same point. Let everyone be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger, for the anger of man does not bring about the righteousness of God. And essentially says the same here in this proverb. Okay, well, thank you for joining me today. Hope you have a great day. Bye.